also turn your camera on. This meeting is being live streamed on the website and is also being recorded for archive purposes. Should you have any issues during the meeting, please contact Democratic Services, or if you have audio issues, please use the chat. Otherwise, we ask that the chat is not used and that all debate is discussed in the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Karen. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Pnawn da, chroeswyr cyfarfod o'r Pwyllgor Gwasanaethau Democratiaeth o'r Cyngor Glamorgan. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Democratic Services Committee of the Vale of Glamorgan. We have three substantive items on our agenda this afternoon. Those are related to the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales's draft annual report 24-25. That's a consultation. We'll have an item on the research support provided to councillors, and we also have an urgent item, which is a hybrid meeting platform update here at the Vale of Glamorgan Council. We have an additional member of officer here present this afternoon to support us with that issue. It therefore seems to make sense to me, with committee's permission, for us to discuss that matter, the hybrid meeting platform update, before we discuss the other two items that are here. Committee happy for me to move that around? I've got a thumb up there and some nods from people who have their cameras on, so I'll take that as a yes, so thank you very much. So if we continue with the meeting as it's normal, and then we'll do that as the fourth item in the agenda. So part one, item one is apologies for absence. I understand, Jeff, that we have apologies from Councillor Sally Hanks. Are there any other apologies that we need to note?
I'm not sure if Councillor Carroll's going to make it. He's in his car, so he keeps losing his signal. So I'll give his apologies just in case. As
long as he's not driving, that's whilst being part of the meeting. I think that's important. So Councillor Carroll, Councillor Hanks, any further apologies?
Not from me, Chair. And if Councillor Carroll does come into the meeting, we'll let you know as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Prothero has just joined us, I see. I don't know if she's giving apologies on behalf of somebody else as well.
Well, I've just been in a different meeting, and a couple of others are in that meeting.
Okay.
For Democratic Services, I don't really know what's happened, I'll be honest with you. But Councillor Carroll was in that one as well. So, sorry, it's got to be one of those days, hasn't it?
Okay.
Can I just say Councillor Perks is waiting to be led into the meeting?
Okay. Councillor Perks was in the one that I've just been in as well.
Yeah, she's messaged to say she's waiting to be let in.
Democratic Services look after that for us, please.
And Chair, if you don't mind, Councillor Carroll's trying to join and he's having difficulty. So
simply, this is all the same issue.
Yes, okay. He was in the other one with me, so I think he must have. I don't know how we've got two going on. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have actual apologies from Councillor Hanks and the other people who are hopefully joining us shortly. Yes. Okay. Can we move on to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting? Can I have somebody to move those as a true record? Councillor Thomas, thank you. I'd second them. Councillor Prothero, thank you very much. Item 3 is to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interests under the Council's Code of Conduct. As councillors will, Councillor Perks.
Sorry, I haven't got anything to declare. Is it right if I just speak just now? Because other members are in a different meeting through Teams. It's sending us somewhere else. So that's why I'm late. I think, I don't know if Councillor, Councillor Prothero's here. Sorry, Chair, to interrupt.
Yep, okay. Councillor Prothero is present. I understand that Councillor Carroll was also. I don't know what gremlins have got into the system here, but hopefully Councillor Carroll will be joining us shortly. I don't think there's anybody else in who seems to have been sent by error somewhere else. Councillor Marnie.
Yeah, just an observation yet again. A perfect example of a shambles of why we should be back in that chamber. You know, even though some people feel it's too much effort for them, that's exactly why you should be back in the chamber. Just an observation, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Marnie. I'm sure we'll have an explanation and understanding of what's gone on here, but I think most people seem to be here now. So we were on item 3, which was declarations of interest. Now, an item of importance here is the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales draft annual report 24-25. Now, as last year, item 19.3.3 of our constitution, bracket small b, small I, large c, is that we have been appointed or nominated to this committee in order to make decisions and to respond to the consultation here. All councillors are in receipt of the basic salary, so this applies to all the councillors who are here. In light of, for transparency's sake, I would also like to point out that I am in receipt of a Band 5 senior salary as the leader of the Plaid Cymru group. Councillor Perks.
Sorry, I do need to declare then I'm in as a cabinet member that I'm also in receipt of a higher rate of salary, but I've checked with Democratic Services that I am allowed to be here.
Yes, yes. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I just need to say that as chair of planning, I'm also in receipt of an enhanced salary, but along with everybody else, we're here on that understanding.
Yes, yes. I've made that declaration for transparency rather than anything else. Councillor Haynes.
Yes, two things, and I'll do it for Councillor Carroll because he's having terrible trouble trying to get in. So could someone from Democratic please let him in the meeting? But obviously he's a leader of our group, and obviously for transparency, I'll do it on his behalf because he's going to miss it. Obviously he'll be on the Band 5 as well.
Councillor Haynes, could you ask Councillor Carroll, is he on his private laptop or is he on the Vale laptop? Because he sometimes comes in on his private and we can send it to directly to his private email address. If you don't mind, thank you.
Doing it right now.
Just for clarification, I believe Councillor Carroll is Band 4 rather than Band 5. Councillor Prothero?
Also scrutiny chair for corporate performance and resources, so declaring that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further declarations relevant at this point in time? I don't see any additional hands. I think it's a legacy hand from Councillor Prothero. Okay, in that case, if we can move on to the item that the chair has decided is urgent, which is the hybrid meeting platform update. And so we have Jeff Rees and Nick Wheeler here to present on that. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out progress to date in the delivery of the Council's hybrid meeting solution. Paragraphs 1.1 to 1.6 of the report sets out the statutory parameters the Council is required to have regard to, including the duty to have in place a multi-locations meeting policy. As members will recall, the committee received a report on an updated multi-location meeting policy at its previous committee in July, and that was subsequently approved by the Cabinet in September of this year. The report sets out in the previous report to the Democratic Services Committee, the Council is working to implement a hybrid meeting solution, which is the Easy Comp solution, which members will now be aware of. And work is progressing to implement this in a planned, tested and risk-assessed way to ensure it's successful. As the above work has progressed in near completion, discussions have been held with the Chief Executive and the Leader of the Council, and it has been agreed that a phased approach will take place in regard to the introduction of hybrid public meetings. This will commence with Cabinet on the 30th November, Scrutiny Committees, Governance and Audit Committee and Planning Committee during the December 23 and January 24, and the Special Council meeting, which will be held on the 15th of January 2024. Paragraphs 2.4 to 2.22 provides members with an overview of the work to implement the technology and the support provided by Democratic Services team to members in the use of the new platform, including training arrangement support and information relating to the drop-in sessions to allow members to familiarise themselves with the solution and its capabilities. The current member completion rate of the iDev learning modules currently stands at 83%, Chair. Paragraph 2.23 to 2.37 sets out details of issues considered by officers in relation to the Council chamber and options for changes to the chamber required to accommodate meetings as per the Council's MLM policy. The Officer Project team has given consideration to the current capacity, the electrical infrastructure of the chamber to be able to hold full council meetings in the event that all members of the council and relevant officers attend in person. The overall membership of the council, as members will be aware, increased from 57 to 54 members at the last local government elections, and is further expected to increase by a further 4 to 58 at the next elections in 2027, subject to the outcome of the Boundary Commission's consultation, which is nearing completion. Paragraphs 2.31 to 2.35 sets out options A to F, developed by officers, including costings to identify the most practical and cost-effective solution to hold meetings of full council in the current chamber accommodation. They've also taken account of factors such as compliance with the relevant health and safety, building, fire and equalities legislation. The project team have evaluated the options and propose the committee gives considerations to options, these being options D and F. Option D would provide for a capacity of 68. This would also require the purchase of new equipment, new furniture at a cost of approximately 136,000, with a lead-in time to implement is 8 weeks. This option would see the existing chamber and chairs repurposed into the other corporate meeting rooms, which currently have aging furniture, which is overdue for replacement and therefore will not be wasted. Option F provides capacity of 40, would utilise the existing furniture in a compliant layout, enabling a large proportion of the current council membership to be accommodated alongside a number of key officers to support meetings. This would be minimal cost to providing for this option at £3,500. That's associated with the electrical and minor repair works, and the lead-in time to achieve this option would be 4 weeks. The report proposes that in order to move with pace, option F is initially supported on the basis of a trial arrangement. This would see the existing furniture and equipment used as per the timetable illustrated in this report ahead of the special council meeting on the 15th of January 2024. Chair, the report recommendations are that the Democratic Services Committee notes the progress made to date in respect of the implementation of the Council's hybrid solution platform for the use of council meetings, and that the Democratic Services Committee considers the options available to the Council as set out in the report to inform key decisions which are required to be made in proceeding with the hybrid public meetings, and the committee's recommendations be referred to the Cabinet for further consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So we're being asked to note the progress so far and to consider which of the two preferred options, option D or option F, the council should, this committee should recommend to Cabinet to action so that the work can take place. Is that correct? Yep, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Kevin Marney.
Yeah, sorry, quite a lot to follow there. One of them was for, did I understand, for 40 people to be present at the chamber? Surely, if you've got 54, 57, 58 people in there, you've got to make provision for that. Now, on one hand, you'd be criticised for saying, well, if I'm going to stay at home, you're spending money for the sake of it, but that just demonstrates people who gave a commitment to be councillors, you have to provide for all of them. The fact that half of them just want to be on a computer rather than in person, I don't see how you can not differentiate for that. Can't allow it. You have to presumably have the full hit. I mean, these figures are horrendous, quite frankly. I remember when these chairs, I'm not sitting on a chair, the £800 chairs, and I've opinioned many times. So that I'd expect the chair to come up my house and pick me up and take me back down to the council chamber. I know you said they'll be replacing older ones, but I mean, this is just horrendous stuff. But what a complete and utter mess this whole farce is. Not necessarily always on the council's head, the shambles that's Welsh government as well. But if you've got 58 people on a council, there have to be provision for 58 people. And quite frankly, if it's going to cost a fortune, get them some deck chairs, get them some fold-up chairs, some IKEA in there. Who cares? You're there to serve the people, not to spend their money at this rate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marley. I'm not sure whether that's in favour or against a particular option that was there. I think what's being suggested is either option D, which is £136,000 spent for the lead time of 8 weeks, or option F, which is the option for 40 in the short term, which is £3,500 and 4 weeks lead time. Councillor Perks.
I'd like to propose that we go for option F and the 4-week run-in period. And the reason for that is I think this is going to be a trial period as well, I think it's worthwhile actually, you know, sort of let's see how it actually works, and before we spend 136,000 on new equipment, on new desks and things like that, let's let it get bed in, see how it works for everybody, and then review it then, as I think it is going to be done anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Perks. Councillor Haynes, are you going to second option F, or do I need somebody else to second that?
No, I was going to speak generally on the thing. I wasn't going to second option F.
Okay, just could I have somebody to second Councillor Perks's proposal? We move to option F.
I'll second now.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Prothero. Councillor Haynes.
Yes. Well, to be honest, let's be honest. It doesn't matter which option it is, really, does it? It's been a shambles from start to finish. Why aren't we just pushing forward and getting it done now? Whether it's F or D, we've got to get into the chamber. We had a remote council meeting, special meeting, remote. A council meeting, completely remote, the last one in November. That's just completely undemocratic. No members of public can turn up. We should be considering really getting this just done. Why isn't it being done rather than going through committee and committee? We're going to end up going through option F, I'm sure, because it's the cheapest. But as I say, then it's going to be reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. We need to have less remote meetings. Let's have hybrid. God, could we have a meeting when everyone attended? That'd be lovely. We all signed up for it. That's why we put our names on the ballot. So just basically, I'm just completely frustrated with the entire system and how long it's taken to do what is a statutory requirement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. I mean, I think I share the frustrations that are expressed by Councillor Marnie and yourself, but I will point that there is a £132,500 difference between these two options, and if those are the two options in front of us, then we do need to make a decision, and they're not the same thing. Councillor Goodjump.
Just wanted to confirm with the officer that options A and B were discounted based on health and safety concerns, just because they're in the papers. I don't think it was explicitly said at any point, but it was implied, and that's why we're being given either option D or F to look at. And I just wanted to also point out that 3 Conservatives were not present at those special council meetings. So if we all want to turn up, that's, you know, based on personal reasons. Everyone has different reasons for not being able to be in the chamber. We want to be inclusive of everyone. And absolutely £135,000, I think, is a perfectly reasonable reason to have a meeting and discuss and just make a quick decision. It's not too difficult, is it?
Jeff, can you respond to
certainly. Would you like me to respond, Chair, at this point? Okay, yeah, my understanding is, Councillor Goodjohn, that those other options were discounted for the health and safety, fire regs, etc. reasons, qualities legislation and so on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jeff. I assume that answers your question, Councillor Goodjohn.
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll bring in Councillor Marnie, and then as we only have one option on the table, nobody's moved option D or spoken in favour of it so far. Then we'll have a vote on that. Councillor Marnie.
Yeah, I was a bit lost. Let me put the camera on as well. It takes a little while doing the two of them. Hang on. Yeah, I was a bit lost at the other one. I didn't manage to have it in front of me. I'd lost it with option A, which has just been brought up, and my question was going to be, what's the matter with current furniture? Option A. I know you just touched on that, and Jeff has explained. I can appreciate fire regs and stuff, but you know, here's an idea. Let's go back to 47 councillors. It doesn't cost the people so much. We can fit in there fine. Presumably there are no health and safety options there. You know, let's have a new town hall. Is it? You know, let's spend a couple of million and have a new, so it's big enough. You know, I noticed on that working group that I was criticised by Liz Bennett for not being on. That was recommending town councillors. They recommended 84 town councillors for Barry, up from the current 22 or 24. Let's just keep expanding. Is it? Let's keep having bigger and bigger buildings, more and more councillors. I got a good idea. Let's go back to 47 and you don't have to worry about any of this nonsense. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Option F has been moved and seconded as a proposal. Is there anybody who wishes to vote against option F or to abstain? Otherwise, I'll take it by acclamation.
Yeah,
Councillor
I'd like.
Haynes?
I would
Yeah,
like. to-
Kevin. Councillor Haynes first. You're on mute.
Chair, sorry, Chair, I was muted. I'd like to abstain because it's irrelevant.
Okay, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Carroll, you're on mute. I'm
Yes, I
assuming-
too would like to abstain, please, Chair.
Okay. Other than that, I heard Councillor Marnie speak. I wasn't sure if he was indicating a willingness to.
I didn't put my hand up, actually. I thought he was just asking. I would have put my hand up normally, and I will in the future. Well, I don't know. What's my options here? I'd like to vote against both then. Or am I only allowed to abstain in that case? Maybe I could have your advice on it.
It's I suppose abstaining, because the only option on the table is option F. That's the only one that's been forwarded, been moved and seconded.
Well, I'll vote against then. Thanks.
Okay, so Jeff, we've had 3 people indicate. Is that enough, or do you want to actually have a vote? Because I'm not sure how many people we've got in the room.
If it's a simple show of hands, Chair, it's a matter of if you're happy with a simple show of hands, that will be sufficient. Those for, those against, and abstain.
Can we have a vote then, please, Jeff? Just because I'm not quite sure, because with a lot of people in the room, I'm not quite sure who is actually on the committee and who isn't. So,
Chair,
Okay.
you've got 8 members on the committee, and you've got
Yeah.
3 2 have abstained, and Councillor Marnie was against. You've got 8 members who are
Yeah.
present today.
Can we for formality purposes, Karen? Can we have can we formalise?
Do you want me to call the names, Chair?
Yes,
That's fine.
please. So,
Yeah.
Right. So, Karen, if you could just keep a record, and I'll call the names.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, that'll be useful. Thank you. So I'll just run in the order of the agenda in terms of the membership. So I'll go with you, Chair, first.
I'm in favour of option F.
Councillor Haynes,
Abstain.
Councillor Carroll,
Abstain.
Councillor Goodjohn,
Or option F.
Councillor Hamilton. I don't think he's on the call, is he? On the meeting? No.
No.
Councillor Marnie.
I'd like to vote against, but I would like to say I don't put anything against that on the council staff who are having to try and implement something that they've got no control over. Thank you.
Councillor Perks.
For F, option F.
Councillor Prothero.
For option F.
And Councillor Thomas.
For option F.
Okay, Chair, that's 5 for, 2 abstentions and 1 against. So that the motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Karen. In that case, can we move to the recommendations, which are that we note the progress made to date in respect of the implementation of the Council's hybrid solution platform for use at Council meetings, and that we consider the options available to the Council set out in the report to inform key decisions which are required to be made in proceeding with hybrid public meetings, and the committee's recommendation we refer to CAB for further consideration, and that is that we support option F. Councillor Goodjohn.
Can I make a quick comment at this point, just to state that I hope with only 40 member capacity, or 40 capacity in total, including staff, that who are allowed within the council chambers is not based on who gets there first, and those who do not want to participate in prayers, as that occurs before each council meeting, and that we can find alternative ways of deciding who gets in the council chambers with a limited capacity. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Goodham. Jeff, do you want to make any comment on that?
Well, I'm obviously going to refer to the legislation. So we've got a hybrid meeting solution. There's no requirement within the legislation for members to attend in person. So if it got to, so the only assurance I can give Councillor Goodjohn is once we become apparent that we're looking at the limit in terms of members and officer mix, then we'd have to allocate seats based on groups. So proportionally, we'd allocate seats based on group entitlement on the 40, and obviously that would include the independent members who are not affiliated to any political groups. So that's the way the way I would probably be having a discussion with the monitoring officer and the chief executive.
And a reminder that this is a trial arrangement which will be reconsidered, and that will be identified in future. I've got Councillor Marnie looking to come back in once more.
That's a very good point that's been raised. I appreciate what you just said about trial arrangement there, but that's just not on. Anybody who wishes to be in the chamber has to be in the chamber. It's as simple as that. You know, you can't turn up being number 41 and say, oh, by the way, you can't be here, even if you ask for prior warning. It's just not on. A hybrid meeting means that anybody who wants to be in the chamber can be in the chamber. Anybody who doesn't, presumably. There can be nobody turned away from that to what's name. I do appreciate your point about trial kind of what's name, but the first time this occurs, I'd say the meeting would have to be cancelled, and we have to have a look at what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Jeff.
I just want to come back and correct Councillor Marnie for the obvious point, as I just alluded to. We would if it become apparent from potentially group leaders contacting myself, the chief executive, or the monitor officer, that there was going to be numbers nearing the 40 capacity, then we would have to look at some arrangement thereby providing groups an entitlement based on the number of seats available. And as part of that arrangement, would it be, for example, Councillor Marnie being afforded a seat in the chamber, as would all the non-affiliated independent members would have an arrangement. And I know there's a degree of working within the numbers, but there has to be, you know, some sort of mechanism in place, I suppose, to provide a fair distribution across all groups and independent members.
I refer again to this being a trial arrangement, and we will see what exactly happens over the next couple of weeks. Councillor Haynes, can I ask you to be brief so that we can move on with the rest of the agenda?
I will be, and it may be a bit of devilment. So what you're saying is that an independent member is worth more than a non-independent member, and that's a dangerous ground to go on. We've already had that discussion before with our allocations with questions, haven't we? So I would say Councillor Marnie's right. If someone wants to attend, they need to be able to attend. I also, like Councillor Goodjohn, I'm an atheist, and therefore the prayer thing can become an issue to some atheists. I assume Councillor Goodjohn's an atheist if he doesn't want to attend prayers. Sorry for saying you are when you may or may not be. But I'm just making a point. Yes, the prayer issue can be an issue for some people and could cause a bit of a rush. But sorry, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. I suspect from my previous experience of in-person council meetings, if you are there and you have a laptop, you will have been into the chamber prior to the meeting beginning and setting yourself up and putting your jacket down, etc., rather than walking in several minutes, or rather than walking in a minute before the meeting actually starts. But this is, as we've just, it's been suggested, this is a trial arrangement, and we will see what happens, and lessons will inevitably be learnt. So on that basis, I've repeated the recommendations that we have on this item. Are members happy to move that? Yeah, Councillor Thomas, and to second it. Yes, Councillor Perks. Thank you very much. In that case, we've now completed that at item 6, which was the additional item. So if we now move back to item 4, and thank Nick Wheeler for his attendance at the meeting, just not been, I don't think it's been particularly necessary, but very helpful to have Nick here in the background. So move on to item 4, which is the independent remuneration. Nick, you can leave the meeting if you don't need to be here. The independent remuneration panel for Wales 2024-2025 draft recommendations. There are 2 different elements that we have within this report, which relate to the determinations made by, or draft determinations made by the IRPW, and also to consultation questions that they have. So we have 2 separate elements here. Can I ask Jeffries to take us through the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'll preempt my comments, and I'll just assume that all members have taken the time to read the report. and indeed all the reports accompanying this agenda. So the purpose of this report is to seek the committee's comments on the draft annual report from the IRPW for 2024-25. This is the same process the committee considered last year and indeed in previous years. So it's the same process that the IRPW operate in terms of consultation. Members will note that I'd emailed previously in October the draft annual report, so members could respond directly themselves if they wish to on the consultation proposals. But the purpose of this report is to allow the committee and the council to respond formally to the IRPW by its deadline of the 8th of December 2023. All determinations contained in the annual report will apply in respect of all principal councils, town and community councils, and the relevant fire and rescue and national parks authorities from the 1st of April. And the IRPW proposed setting salaries as set out in Appendix A to the report in order to avoid further erosion in relation to average earnings, and an explanation of the methodology used by the IRPW is set out in paragraph 2.2 of the report, which is the acronym is ASH, but it's the Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings within Wales, and it's published by the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, and it's recognised by a number of sectors as the most reliable and main benchmark for setting remuneration levels and other factors. The same paragraph refers to the three main subject areas which the IRPW in its annual draft report for 24-25 have concentrated on. That is to say, ensurance that the remuneration is fair and reasonable, using ASH to basis determinations, simplifying reporting compliance arrangements for town and community councils, and latterly, the method of calculating payments made to cooperative members of principal councils, national park and fire and rescue authorities. An extract of the determinations of the RPW is appended at Appendix A with, and these are only my suggested comments, so please don't take this as set in stone. It's only, if anything, to probably stimulate some discussion with members. But in there are some responses that I've placed within the document. And also the IRPW is consulting on a number of questions in relation to the draft annual report, and these are appended to Appendix B. Again, I've put some draft responses as a starting point for discussion for the committee to consider. And essentially the committee's comments and responses sought on these. The report recommends that the committee notes the IRPW draft annual report for 24-25 proposals. The committee approves the draft response to the IRP determinations as set out in Appendix A to the report, and of course subject to any changes that the committee deem appropriate. And 3, that the committee considers and agrees the proposed draft responses to the consultation questions. And again, if members wish to amend those, set out in Appendix B to the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. And just for a little clarification, it's worth reminding ourselves that the ASH Wales report, and this is the 2022 report, is used by the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales to set the basic councillor's salary, and they set that on the basis of the salary being 60% of the median average. So the way that works is that if you lined up everybody in Wales who is every adult working full time, then the median is the one in the middle. That is calculated in the 2022 ASH. We already have the 2023 ASH report published, but the 2022 ASH report, which is what is used for this, sets that at £598 per week, and 60% of that is about £359, which is used to create the calculation of 18,666 as being the base salary for a councillor in the year 2024-25. That's your understanding of it, isn't it, Jeff? Just checking. I'm not, yeah, okay. So what we have here is we have a series of determinations. Some of these are related only to principal authorities such as ourselves. Others are related to town community councils, to national park authorities, etc. So what we can do is go through the determinations one by one and see if there are any comments on those and any wider discussion we want to have around that. Is that the appropriate way forward? Feel happy with that? So does anybody have any comments they wish to make on determination 1, which is the basic salary in 23-24, which is the alignment of basic salary for councillors with ASH on a 0.6 basis? Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. It's 1 to 3, in fact, so so I don't have to repeat myself. It's the same on all of them. I'm a great believer in performance-related pay, and if the performance of this council and the performance I've seen in scrutinies is anything to go for, I don't think councillors deserve this level of money. That's just not a personal point, but on top of this, we're hearing so much comments and about how poor people are off and the deficit this council's in, yet we're electing to up our own wages in a time when things are hard. So on 2 points, 1 to 3, I think, no, there should be no change. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. And just to point out, we are not voting to up our own wages. This is this is a consultation from the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales, who will make the determination. Councillors are able to not accept any uplift that's offered to them as part of this, as you'll be aware from the discussion we had last year. Councillor Haynes.
I do appreciate that, Chair, and I do understand what we're talking about, but it's important to be said that this money is too high, and to be honest, it shouldn't be on in individual councillors. The council as a body should turn around and take a stand, and we should vote all together to turn this down when it comes to a vote, actually, but not in, obviously I do appreciate it. This isn't the position which we can do here. I was just making the point.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. My view is similar to that of Councillor Haynes. I don't believe that a pay increase is appropriate in the circumstances. I accept that it's an independent panel that sets the pay. That said, we do have the opportunity to make representations to that panel as part of the consultation, and I would suggest that the Vale of Glamorgan Council made such representations, recommending that there be a freeze this year. I think that would reflect the circumstances that residents are facing, and I think it would be the appropriate thing to do.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Of course, just a quick reminder that we as a committee are replying on behalf of the Vale of Glamorgan Council. So if what this committee decides it wants to do is the representation from the Vale of Glamorgan Council here. Councillor Marnie.
Yes, I have to agree with the previous comments. As you'll be aware, Ian, I'm possibly the only councillor, I stand to be corrected, who's turned down wage rise after wage rise in the past, not costing, but giving up voluntarily thousands of pounds worth of wages in the vain hope that the other councillors on the council would join me. I didn't see any or little, if any, councillors join me. I do echo the point is one person or two people making a stand affects very little. It's the whole council that really needs to be given this money to make inroads into what our ratepayers pay. Otherwise, you just see one, maybe two councillors taking thousands of pounds less than while everybody else is taking every rise that goes, sort of. Some I appreciate everybody has their own position on this. I've made representatives in the past, both in council chamber, written, and also a personal appearance in front of the independent remuneration panel. It doesn't make a scrap of difference individually or ploughing a lone furrow. You're knocking your head up against a brick wall. So I would like this committee to vote to turn down these recommendations, and we'll see what's what. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, traditionally we've accepted that the IRPW have made their assessments based on the based on the median salary in Wales and on their assessment of the amount of work that most councillors should be doing in terms of their roles and the kind of hours per week that they should be putting in if they're doing the job to the full, and that they see this as being I was about to say a fair assessment. In the past, in the very recent past, when I too have been part of the discussions with the IPW, they've said to me that we are still, that many councillors are still working for what would be less than the real living wage, given the amount of hours that many do, and that this, I mean, as I understand it, this is still a step on the way to catching up with that. But I'd support the three determinations that we're talking about, which are the ones that Councillor Haynes has amalgamated together. I'd support all three.
So we can stick to them one at a time, and appreciate when people have been referring to more than one, and we'll go back to those at a later point. Councillor Goodjohn.
Yeah, just to make the point that we as a council cannot reject what is the recommendations. My understanding is that as a council as a whole, we have no say other than this one consultation. We can't just say no. If we could, then that would be a different story. And I do think we have to take the first three together. I think even in the response to the consultation, they have it all together as just, are we being paid based on the right assessment? I personally support what we did last year, where we said, well, independent panel, based on the cost of living, based on the current state of public services, you might want to consider a freeze. And that's up to them to then decide, and up to individual councillors if they want to take that, as Councillor Manny said. So I would support just that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Councillor Perks.
Yes, I would agree with what Councillor Goodjohn just said, but also what I would say to other members who say we need to turn this down. For me, I'm okay. I'm a cabinet member, but for other councillors, you don't know their personal circumstances. You don't know what they've, might have given up a job and things like that to ensure in order to be a councillor. And I just think, you need to consider that it's down to an individual basis on what people decide to do. But yes, I agree with Councillor Goodjohn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm given the tone of conversation so far. I think it seems fair to say that this committee wishes to respond to the consultation by saying it either supports a freeze or reminds the IRPW, which is I think the phrase we used last year. Because somebody want to move a motion related to that, Councillor Goodjohn?
I would move what we said last year, the same wording.
Okay, somebody want to second that? Councillor Perks.
Chair, can we have clarity on what the wording was last year, please? Sorry.
Well, Jeff, have you got that in front of you, or shall I go and find it for a moment?
I don't, unfortunately, Chair. And I've got two screens already open, one for this meeting and one for... I haven't got another screen, sorry. The go looking across. If I read minutes from last year's meeting, determinations 1, 2, and 3 last year, we responded that that in light of the cost of living crisis affecting Wales and the wider UK, the IRPW be reminded that they can consider a freeze in remuneration for elected members' principal council salaries for the year 23-24. Which refer to these determinations. You muted, Councillor Haynes. Sorry,
you're on mute, Councillor Haynes, and I think you're looking. I think you're wanting to strengthen the wording, aren't you? There.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. I would prefer if it were just said clearly that we think it should be a freeze, full stop, not because of anything. We just think it should be a freeze, and please listen to us this time. Let's try and give them less space to move.
Councillor Prothero.
I'm just saying I'm happy with the wording that we've used, and I think it's been made quite clear that that we can make our point, which I think we're doing with the wording that you used last year, and that's about all we can do in this situation. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Goodjohn and Councillor Perks. I don't know if Councillor Haynes and others wish to have an alternative wording which is substantively different. Councillor Haynes? You're on mute.
Unmute, sorry again, Chair, I'm having trouble with my buttons. Yes, I would like to move that we just ask the remuneration panel to do a freeze. Full stop. Just please freeze. So the word should be that this council would like there to be a freeze in the determination of principal members' wages, as well as Group B councils, basically determination 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so you're simply asking for a freeze rather than include an explanation. That's it was simply second that wording. Councillor Carroll, I'm assuming is seconding that. Yeah. Okay. I do think
Yes.
we're slightly dancing on angels dancing on a pinhead here. We do have any. So we have that a motion and an amendment, or do we want to simply take these as two different?
It's an amendment, isn't it, Chair? Councillor
Yeah.
Haynes is amending what
Yes.
Councillor Goodjohn and Perks has seconded.
Okay,
So we'll take the amendment first.
Take the amendment first, then. I'm going to. So I don't know who's reading out the names, Jeff.
I'll do that now, Chair. Just bear with me.
Okay.
Right, so this is for Councillor Haynes's amendment. So for the amendment, Councillor Johnson.
I'll abstain, please.
Councillor Haynes.
For.
Councillor Carroll. Councillor Carroll. Councillor Goodjohn.
For.
Against.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Perks.
Against.
Councillor Prothero.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Okay, Chair, that's 4 against, 3 for, and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen and Jeff. That means obviously that the amendment has fallen, which leaves us with the substantive motion as proposed by Councillor Goodjohn, seconded by Sandra Perks, which was the wording as we did
last year.
Last year, and that was the suggestion there was that reflects determinations 1, 2, and 3. We haven't had a discussion on determinations 2 and 3 specifically, but it seems to me that we have had people have referred to those within this. So if we are happy to do that, can I take that by acclamation? Councillor Prothero?
I just have a question on the sustainability of travel. I think that's question. Which one is that one?
We're nowhere near that yet, Councillor Prothero.
Oh, I thought you were including that in there. No, sorry.
No. This is related to determination 1, which is the basic salary in 23-24 for 24-25 for elected members. I think rather than 3-4, which it says here. The determination of senior salary levels in 24-5, and the salary level for a chair of a joint overview and scrutiny committee, JOSC.
Gotcha.
So I'm just clarifying that we're all happy with the phrasing as per last year.
Absolutely.
Given that the amendment has fallen. So we don't need to vote on that? No? You okay with that, Jeff?
got that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so that's determinations 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, sorry.
Yeah.
Determination 4 is about payments between national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities, with the recommendation that the authority makes no comment on the increase. It's a matter for those authorities. I don't know whether committee members want to make comment on those for national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities. In that case, can we agree that we make no comment? Yes. Okay. Determination 5 is related to co-opted member payments, and this is about this proposal that there should be local flexibility for officers to decide whether it's appropriate to apply a day or half-day rate or use an hourly rate in order to aggregate a series of short meetings, and that the full half-day rates remain unchanged, so the amount remains unchanged. The only change to the stipulation of hourly rates. Obviously, that does impact upon us because we have a number of co-opted members who sit upon our committees. Jeff, is there anything you want to say on this?
No, Chair. I think it's very clear in the report. It just gives the monitoring officer a degree of flexibility because of the change in working practices, agile working with co-opted members. Sometimes when they attend training, it may not be a full half day. So instead of paying a full half day or a full day, they'll just pay the commensurate hours. So there's been some issues in other authorities regarding this, and representations are made by statutory officers to the IRPW about. I think the issue is that if it's a half day or not a full day, somewhere in between it gives you the flexibility just to pay the hourly rate. So it is in some respects, and it is an attempt to keep the cost of democracy to acknowledging hours and contribution made, and members, co-opted members, being remunerated for those periods of time.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any comment on that? Councillor Ewan Goodjohn.
Just to say quickly that this makes far more sense. The co-opted members bring a huge amount of expertise and are very valuable to the committees, especially the governance and audit, which they sit on. But yeah, the current system didn't really make as much sense as just using the hourly rate a lot of the time, especially when meetings are short. So yeah, it just makes a lot more sense. Fully in support.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, a lot of I don't know what the truth is, but a lot of our work in terms of committee work and so on is based on reading papers, and that takes an awful lot of time. It's not the attendance of the meeting; it's the total for that. And is that within this report being considered, or I mean, is the payment simply on the hours of attendance?
I think Jeff will probably comment better than
No.
Just
for clarity, Chair, and I suppose just for making members aware, for the co-opted members, there's currently within the Constitution a number of days that can be paid. That currently sits at 10. That's currently under review. So the number of days then can be broken down into full days or half days, and that would include preparation. I think that's what you're describing as, Councillor Thomas. So the sort of stuff that you guys would do, meeting prep, that's been acknowledged and built into members' attendance. So part of that day rate or half rate would include meeting prep before they come along.
Okay, thank you. So the recommended response is the authority supports the introduction of flexibility to use an hourly rate where appropriate. Councillor Haynes.
I just think it might be a little bit dangerous to driving co-opted members away. They're not overly highly paid for a day rate, are they? I think it's trying to solve a problem that we haven't got. I think we need to encourage more co-opted people, not just think, oh, how can we stop them getting a little bit of expenses? But I'm sure it's going to go through. But yes, it just worries me a little.
I think I'll ask Jeff to come in and clarify on that, Councillor Haynes.
For the same reason why members are remunerated, we don't want to drive them away, Councillor Haynes. So it's the same argument we make with co-opted members. It's important that they are remunerated. We're not looking to make it difficult for co-opted members. And bear in mind, co-opted members have been sent the draft report. They can also comment directly to the IRPW. So we go through a very stringent set of checks when we appoint members to co-opted roles, and I'm pleased to say that we don't have any difficulties in recruiting individual members, lay members into the work of the G&A committee or the standards committee, and indeed they're highly valued individuals. So I would say this would not be in any way counterproductive to attracting current members or indeed future potential individuals to come on to the council's governance arrangements. And as I said, if it's acknowledged that remuneration is important for co-opted members, I'm just going to make the case it's equally important for elected members of principal councils across the piece, and including town and community councils, because the time they do give up. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I did see another hand that's gone down. Was anybody else interested in speaking on this? I assume not. Okay. Is there anybody other than Councillor Haynes who has any concerns with our response to this this item? Okay, can I assume that everybody else is therefore satisfied with this? A nod from Councillor Perks and Councillor Thomas. Okay, thank you very much. The last three determinations, Jeff, can I just confirm, are these relating to community and town councils rather than principal authorities? Okay,
they are indeed, yeah.
So just for clarification then, so determination 6 is regarding consumables and working from home for community and town councils. Determination 7 is relating to compensation for financial loss if people are working away as a result of their community and town council work. And determination is regarding mandatory payments. Now, earlier on today, we've not commented on matters relating to National Park Authority and Fire and Rescue Services. Are we adopting the same principle, or do people wish to comment in particular on these town community councils? So, I mean, I do recommend the recommendation for here is the authority makes no comment to the proposal, but supports the principle that members should be reimbursed on determination 6. The authority makes no comment on the increase on determination 7, and the authority supports the principle of alignment with reporting on the costs of care and personal allies as allowance to determination 8. We could agree with those, or we could make no comment because they are not part of our remit in this context. Although obviously a number of us are also town and community councillors, and we'll be discussing that elsewhere. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, I mean, with regard to determination 6, Chair, I mean, I'm happy to go with the proposed comment. I mean, we're not making a comment. I do support the principle of town and community councils, which are voluntary roles, being reimbursed for the costs that they incur. I know that a number of the town and community councillors that I know choose not to take the money, which is their right, but I think that it should be made available because there are costs involved with fulfilling the role. It's an unpaid one, and I think that a small amount of expense to cover those costs is appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Perks.
I just think, yes, we don't make any comments on this. As you said, it'll be going to the town and community councils anyway.
Okay, we've now just had two speakers speak slightly over each other there. So either we're making no comment or we're making no comment but supporting the principle that members be reimbursed. I'm not sure which way people want to jump on that. Joys of trying to do consultation by committee. Does anybody have any strong thoughts one way or the other about making no response at all, or making a response, saying we make no response but then talking about the principle of it? Councillor Brotherwell.
We support the principle of it, and we don't need to make a comment. That's it.
Okay, so I think Councillor Brotherwell is agreeing with Councillor Carroll there, and so the authority makes no comment on the proposal but supports the principle members should be reimbursed, and we're happy with that. Yep. Okay. Compensation for financial loss. The authority makes no comment on the increase. Are we happy with that? Determination 8. The authority supports the principle of alignment with reporting of the costs of care and personal assistance allowance. But obviously that's something for town and community councils. So we can either support the principle or we can make no comment, and that's up to committee. Any thoughts? Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, you rightly say that that is fundamentally it's a matter for the TCCs, but the principle that the money is available there for those who have challenging circumstances, but still want to contribute to democracy, I think they should be supported. I think the comment that Jeff has put in, the authority supports the principle of alignment, etc. I think we should support that.
Just to clarify, I mean, it's about the reporting process. That's what this is about, which is that instead of, correct me if I misunderstood this, Jeff, but that instead of these being attributed to individuals, it's attributed to the council as a whole. So when it's reported at the end of the financial year how much the council has may have spent on costs of care, it's not attributed to an individual set of circumstances, but the council.
Absolutely, yeah. It stops finger wagging, I guess, is the thing. We do want to encourage people with maybe childcare responsibilities and all the rest of it being able to contribute, and the possibility that they may be targeted, I guess, if it was individuals, is wrong. So I support Jeff's comment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Obviously, there's naturally the reason for this is that there are different opinions on it, but this is the suggestion here. Councillor Thomas, I think, is moving support for that. Can I have somebody to second or wishes to oppose? Yeah, Councillor Goodjohn is seconding that. So anybody wishing to oppose? No. Okay, so we'll take that. So that takes us to the end of Appendix A, which are the 8 determinations. We now move on to Appendix B, which is a series of, I think, 6 questions from the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales that they are looking for us to respond to. Question 1 is regarding an uplift of remuneration using ASH, as we've discussed about earlier. The panel is fully aware of the current constraints on public funding and the impacts decisions will have on the budgets of principal authorities. The panel is also mindful of our aims and objectives to provide a fair and reasonable remuneration package to support elected members and to encourage diversity of representation. We therefore propose to uplift remuneration based on the average earnings of their constituents. Do you think the panel has struck the right balance between affordability and adequate remuneration of representatives? If not, do you have other suggestions? And there's a yes, no opinion with additional comments. As we'll say, noting what we've already said earlier on in our response. Councillor Goodjohn.
Yeah, noting what we've already said, personally, I think the right response would be no opinion, and to say, well, on the basis of principle, we support continuing linking with ASH. I do think in exceptional circumstances, we remind the panel that they have the option to freeze. Just very similar wording again, just because of the exceptional circumstances. Personally, linking it most of the time, I'm fully in favour of, and especially considering it's an independent panel, I think it's only fair that we're all paid based on our constituents and based on what everyone else in Wales is paid. It's just because of the current lack of funding and the current state of public services. That's all, and that's mostly due to a particular government, and that's nothing to do with the panel, nothing to do with us a lot of the time, because most economic decisions are not made by us. But in principle, yes, but sometimes it may be necessary to freeze, maybe, depending on what the independent panel decides. So yeah, no opinion, and in principle we support ASH, but in exceptional circumstances it's up to the independent panel to decide whether it's worth freezing.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Goodjohn. Councillor Haynes.
Well, mine is no. We don't think they struck the right balance, full stop. So that's it, simple, no. And any additional comments, freeze. As was said, we don't. It's not no opinion, is it? No opinion. If we had no opinion, we would have said no opinion due to 1, 2, and 3. I think our reply should be no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have? If no, do you have other suggestions?
A 1-year freeze. Full stop. On all council funding, on all county councillors' fundings. Regardless of their roles. Hey, I'm quite happy to suggest that we have performance-related pay as well, because that would cut our wages somewhat. But that's basically what I said before. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Goodjohn.
Can I quickly remind Councillor Haynes, we do have performance-based pay based on if we don't do well, we don't get elected. That's how it works. So I would oppose that amendment.
I would like to remind Councillor Goodjohn, some people get elected regardless of how good or bad they are. That is the nature of British politics. Thank you, Chair.
Fortunately, we have no examples of that in the Vale of Glamorgan. Everyone's elected on the basis of how great they do in their election campaign and they promises. Right, we have a suggestion from Councillor Goodjohn, which is a no opinion, and to fundamentally restate the comments that were made earlier in response to determinations 1, 2 and 3. And we have a counter opinion from Councillor Haynes, which say no and say that it should be frozen. Do we have well, first of all, we don't really have anybody to second. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second Councillor Haynes' counter proposal. I think that making it clear that the authority supports and calls for the freeze would be the sensible thing to do.
Okay. I will point out that Councillor Goodjohn hasn't been seconded at this point, which makes that it's Councillor Haynes is the main point, and therefore I'm assuming that both Councillor Thomas and Perks want to come in and second or speak. Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I just wanted to second Councillor Goodjohn's proposal.
On that basis, correct me if I've got this wrong, Jeff, but if we've had Councillor Haynes and Carol have moved and seconded first before Goodjohn has therefore the queue, and Councillor Goodjohn's version is the amendment. And therefore we take that first.
I think it's a straight vote off, isn't it, Chair? Because one's opposed and one's no, and one's no. Sorry, well, yeah. Sorry, go on. Ignore me.
Yes, I'd like a straight vote off as well, but I'm told that's not how it's supposed to work, Jeff. So, therefore, Councillor Prothero.
I'm just going back to what they're actually asking us to actually say yes, no, or no opinion, and that was, do we think that the right balance between affordability and adequate remuneration for representatives has been met? So that's not whether we think we, in this particular occasion, should freeze the salary. It's is that principle the right principle to take? So I think I have to agree with Councillor Goodjohn that in this situation we're going to say no opinion, because we've said we believe, because there is still a cost of living crisis going on out there, that we should accept no increase and we should stay with the pay freeze. But the principle of linking affordability and adequate remuneration as they have is the right way of taking this forward. So it's no opinion on this particular question. Okay, and I'm supporting what Councillor Goodjohn has said.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Prothero. Councillor Marnie.
Oh, thanks. Didn't realise I had my hand up, but I think more or less arguing, hedging about the same thing with both of these amendments, proposals, whatever they are. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm quite happy to go with you and so on. I don't see much difference in them, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Marnie. Now, on the basis that Councillor Haynes and Carol's motion was moved first, that means that Councillor Goodjohn and Thomas's is the amendment. So we'll take that first. Is that correct, Jeff? So if we can have
that's correct.
Yeah. Have the list.
Okay.
And
so Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'll abstain.
Councillor Haynes.
Just to clarify, because it cut out, we're voting on the amendment, are we?
That's correct.
Yes, we're voting on Councillor Goodjohn's amendment, yeah.
Against Councillor Haynes, that's right, yep. Councillor Carroll.
Against.
Councillor Goodjohn.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Perks.
For.
Councillor Prothero.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Motion is carried then, Chair.
The amendment is carried, Chair.
Yeah, the amendment, sorry, is for 5, against 2, and abstain 1.
Okay, so that's now the amended motion. So are we happy with that going forward as our response to this question? Yeah, I'm seeing nods there, and Councillor Haynes might not be happy, but you know, that's the nature
There's
of
no
it.
point
Isn't it?
dragging it to a chair, to a vote, Chair.
Okay, so we're accepting that as the answer to that. Question 2 is related to local flexibility for payments to co-opted individuals, and this, you know, again, as that sort of callback to one of the determinations earlier. The panel has received evidence it would be more cost effective and fairer to provide for flexibility in paying those who co-opted to serve on committees of principal councils, national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities. The panel has therefore proposed there should be local flexibility for the relevant officer to decide when it would be appropriate to apply a day or half-day rate, or to use an hourly rate where it is sensible to aggregate a few short meetings. Do you agree with this proposal? If not, do you have any suggested alternatives? Yes, no, no opinion. And the suggested response from officers here is the council accepts the stance taken by IRPW to review existing payment methods to reflect agile working arrangements and changing demands on co-opted members. Does anybody have any comments on that? And that's do you agree with the proposal? Yes. With any comments on that? Any further clarity required? Are we happy to move forward with that then? I'm seeing some nods and thumbs up. Okay, so I'll do that by acclamation. Thank you. Question 3 is encouraging sustainable travel. The panel would like to ensure that we support environmental sustainability in our conclusions about decisions about remuneration. We are aware there are schemes in many bodies in Wales which encourage sustainable travel, and we advise that, if possible, elected members should be encouraged to participate in these schemes. Do you have any examples of good practice or other ideas of ways in which we might use our powers to encourage more sustainable travel among members? The officer's recommended answer is no opinion, with additional comments that the council supports the principle of encouraging use of sustainable travel by all. The council is currently looking to review information that is provided to its members to raise awareness of the initiative they may wish to take advantage of. Councillor Kevin Marnie.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you.
Marnie?
My view is I'm fed up with people hectoring other people of how they should get anywhere. You know, catch a bike, you know, ride a bike or whatever, walk. I've just yet again come back from Cardiff today on the train to have to get out a stop before my own because the train declined to go the last step to my own stop. You know, who is anybody to be lecturing anybody? Yeah, by all means, you know, go by the less polluting routes that you can or method of going, but who are we to be recommending anybody, you should be walking, you should be cycling? Public transport's a complete and utter joke and won't get you where you're going most of the time, so it's not for us to be passing comment on this, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Marnie. I mean, the no opinion, I think, is the option being put forward here. Councillor Prothero.
I'm just not sure how we can have no opinion on the question, which I think, do we have examples of good practice or other ideas in which we can use our powers to encourage more sustainable travel among members? That doesn't sound like a no opinion question. I don't know. It's just the way I'm reading it. So either yes, we do, or no, we don't. That's all. So my question is, why would we say no opinion to that?
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Prothero. Jeff, I mean, do you have any examples of good practice or other ideas that have been passed around the council or discussed with anyone?
Well, I think probably from my discussions with my colleague in the sustainable team, I have to say it's fairly limited. I mean, obviously members of a certain age would have a bus pass, for example, and you can hop on a bus where they're available, of course, and use a bus pass. Notwithstanding, I mean, comments already made about public transport. In terms of this authority, probably we could do better in raising awareness with members. I know at least one member's accessed the staff scheme, which is to purchase a power bicycle, but that's obviously salary sacrifice type of thing. But having another chat with colleagues, it's fairly very limited what we're currently offering. I mean, no opinion is simply my comment on it. But if the committee want to change to another one of those other two options, obviously that's a matter for the committee to consider.
So I think that in terms of answering the question, I mean, yes, I think Councillor Prothero is right that the answer that we've got therefore is no. We don't have any examples of good practice, but the comment is still relevant. I mean, is that Is that how other members perceive this, or any other comment? Councillor Haynes?
I can see where Councillor Prothero's getting to, where you know, in the answer to the question, but it's no to that, but there may be a yes in the general heading question as well. So I think it's a pretty hard question for us to honestly answer, and it might be safer to go with the no opinion, to be honest. But yes,
I think that the additional comments are probably more important than whether it's a yes, no, or no opinion. Yes, if we had something specific to point to, perhaps, you know, does Councillor Prothero, do you have a particular position you think we should take on this?
Well, I think we have to have an opinion on it. That's all I'm saying. But is it a yes or a no? Yes, of course we support the principles of sustainable travel. We have to. And we have to accept maybe that we, as Jeff has said, don't really at the moment have any examples, which is what they're asking for, of schemes. It's just a very odd choice, isn't it? Of yes, no, or no opinion. It's
there's always a joy in how surveys are created, and therefore how you read them, how you answer them, how you interpret and evaluate them afterwards. Because if you haven't asked the right question in the right way or given the right possibilities for answers, then you obviously have a challenge in interpretation. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I read through this and made assumptions about what we were being asked, but now Joe's pointed it out. I mean, the question, as she rightly says, is the second part, not the preamble. The question is, do you have any examples? And the answer to that is we are not offering any examples. The answer is no, but the principle we are supporting. So a no with the comments, I think, works.
Okay. I do think we are again dancing on angels dancing on pinheads.
Absolutely.
Are people happy with no and the additional comments then? Or does anyone have a strong feeling for no opinion and the same additional comments? Yeah. Okay.
I second what Neil has said. Let's go with no, but keep the comments of in principle, of course. Okay. Of course, we support sustainable.
Great. Okay, so moving on with that. Question 4 is awareness of the entitlements of representatives. The panel has seen evidence of a lack of awareness amongst local elected members of the payments to which they are entitled. We would like to find out if this is a significant issue, and if so, we will aim to raise awareness further, targeted areas where this may be a problem. There are then a series of questions. So identifying which type of body you serve. So we are a principal council. We are responding on behalf of the committee. And it then asks us, did you know you may be entitled to some or all of the following? Remuneration for your role, yes or no. Pension, principal councils only. Reimbursement of expenses. Reimbursement for caring responsibilities, and family absence payments, which is principal councils only. And then response from officer, which is in answer to the question, what steps does your council or authority take to make its elected members and co-opted members aware of their entitlements? There is information relating to member remuneration published in the elected member handbook. Members have been provided practical workshops on how to claim expenses via the digital portal. So there are 5 areas where we're being asked, are we aware that we are entitled to those things? The officer has said that we are aware, or should be aware. Are there any comments either on those 5 or on the additional officer comments? Councillor Haynes.
Yes, sorry, me again, Chair. Yes, well, technically we have all been made aware. I agree. I think some councillors aren't fully aware. The only thing I would add to this, I would go with it, but I would add that that the council, perhaps Democratic Services particularly, should do a little bit more verbally to ensure if councillors haven't claimed that they know that they're entitled to claim for certain things. Just perhaps more should be done, should be added, perhaps. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Perks.
I would say that we have all been made aware, and I would go with what the officer has recommended for the answer for this. I think we were made aware at the like they said, with the brochure that they had. We were also made aware when we had our photographs taken and could sign up for pension and different things like that as well. So I think people are aware, and I'm sure this stuff probably on the intranet that councillors can see as well. I'll just ask Jeff that.
Yes, Councillor Perks, just to confirm, on the MemberNet, there's a lot of information on, and of course some of these matters would have been reported to council at some point in the past. Appreciate Councillor Haynes I don't think in terms of the family absence it may have been, because it would have been born out of the 21 Act. It may have come slightly before the 22 elections, but I'll certainly, I mean, it's a fair point that Councillor Haynes makes in terms of continuing to raise awareness. I have to say that most members are aware of it, and if there are any queries, they do come in, and Karen's team do the best to direct members to the right places to get the support that they need.
Okay. I thought I saw another hand flash up momentarily. I don't know if there's anybody else who wanted to speak on this matter.
It was me, Kevin Marney. No,
yeah.
I've taken it down, to be honest with you. My own opinion is I think these are things are readily available, or you can ring up Jeff or any of his staff. You know, there's loads of stuff. I don't know what it is, but I haven't claimed it because I haven't needed to, and even looked into it and wouldn't anyway. So I don't think there's any problem with people inquiring of staff. Cheers.
That's great, thank you. So I think we're in agreement there. Although there's also a bit of a nudge for Democratic Services to repeat that information at regular intervals to make sure that members are reminded of those the availability of those. Great. Question 5 then is publication of consolidated sums for community and town councils. Again, this is a callback to one of the determinations that was discussed earlier. That community and town councils are required to submit an annual statement of payments to the panel by 30th September each year and publish on their website. Panel provides a template return for clerks to use. The panel discussed and considered changing the requirements for community and town councils when submitting their statement of payment returns. The panel's aims to simplify administration and encourage councils to ensure all mandatory payments are made to individual members. The panel proposes that from September 24, the returns should only show the total amounts paid in respect to the mandatory payments mentioned above. That is the £156 contribution to the costs of working from home and the £52 set rate consumables allowance and the travel assistance expenses paid. This brings those in line with the reporting of costs of care and personal assistance allowances. And then we're asked, do you agree these figures may be published as a global total rather than individually? We've offered no view on the basis that this is, whilst it's a matter for town and community councils, the council supports the panel's proposal to encourage all members to take appropriate remuneration for carrying out their duties. Councillor Perks.
I that we take the officers' answer there, and then we offer no opinion, but have those caveats underneath.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be a bit more concerned about this one, to be honest with you, because I think that there are issues of transparency there. I mean, I accept that different members, particularly if they hold different roles on town and community councils, may end up incurring more expenses. For example, a mayor would inevitably incur more expenses because of the number of civic functions that they attend, potentially. That said, are we suggesting, or are the panel suggesting that these expenses wouldn't be published in future, given that just a global figure would be published without it being itemised?
I think, and my understanding of this, and first of all, bear in mind this is about community and town councils rather than us as a principal authority. But yeah. I think my reading of this, and Jeff will, I'm sure, intercede if I misunderstood, is that at present there is a requirement to be offered the £156 and £52, so that's £208, and those wouldn't be published against the individual, but published as a whole for the council. So the council would provide one single return rather than a on the per councillor basis.
Right, I'm not sure. I would suggest that may be slightly regressive in that it's not about naming and shaming councillors, far from it, but I do wonder if the public would look at that and think that you're not publishing information that's currently available.
I think there is probably a question around transparency. My first question would be whether that's something that we want to set, a point that we want to make as a principal authority. and in terms of the the recommended response from our officer is that the council supports the panel's proposal to encourage all members to take appropriate remuneration for carrying their duties, which is not an actual view one way or the other, and that's what it says there. Anyway, look, Councillor Carroll wants to come back, or I'll go to Councillor Marnie.
Yeah, just a quickie. If you're publishing all in one big lump, people who aren't taking it, is being identified that they aren't taking it, isn't it? So why?
Sorry, repeat that, Councillor Marnie. I'm not quite
yes,
sure. People who aren't
you
taking
previously
it.
you previously referred to whether there should be totaled up as one big lump of everything that's been taken, or individually. Well, all I'm saying is, if people aren't taking it individually, then I think it's only fair that it's highlighted that they're not.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Do you have any particular comments on the wording here, which is no view and as reported? So, Councillor Perks.
Sorry, I was. You just started to repeat what the answer was. I agree with that, and I don't think it's for us to decide as a principal authority what a town and community council decide to do when they discuss it later. So I think I'd rather go with what's the actual answer that we've given.
Okay, so the answer as proposed by the officer, is that being seconded? Okay, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Goodjohn, is there anybody who wants to actually propose an alternative answer? So we know that the minutes will obviously cover the comments made by Councillor Carroll and Councillor Marnie there, but that's the answer coming forward from this committee. Yes. Okay, thank you. The final question here then is the publication, again around the publication of consolidated sums for other bodies. In future reports, we're thinking of allowing consolidation of the travel and subsistence expenses of members of principal councils. So that includes us, national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities, and would be interested in your views. Do you agree that these figures may be published as a global total rather than individually? So that's regarding the travel and subsistence expenses. And the suggested response is no view. And I think there's been a cut and paste here because it says, whilst as a matter for town and community councils, the council supports the principle of publishing global totals. So I think that's not quite right. So I mean, that's either the council supports the principle of publishing global totals for travel and subsistence expenses, or not. Jeff, can I just confirm that before I go to members?
Sorry, the question is, do you agree that these figures may be published as a global rather than an individually?
Yes.
And I'm saying support the principle of publishing global totals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the hard copy I've got slightly different to the version you have there, Jeff?
Whilst this is a matter for town and community councils, the council supports the principle of publishing global totals. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the question asks, we're considering consolidation of travel and subsistence expenses of members of principal councils, national park authorities, and FRAs.
Yeah.
So the answer would be the council supports the principle of publishing global totals, or not, as the case may be. Would that be your attempt to answer, Jeff?
I would say what I'm saying is it supports the principle. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's regarding travel and subsistence expenses of members of principal councils and other authorities there. Councillor Marnie?
Yeah, sorry for the slight delay. Each time I've got to try and turn on the mic and the camera at the same time. No, that's totally wrong, isn't it? You know, each set of any expenses, I've never claimed any personally, should be attributed to each member. And if members of the public want to look at that then and take it up with the member involved, they can justify and tell them why they've claimed those expenses. But just to lump it all in is totally wrong. It has to be assigned individually and published like that.
Okay, so I think Councillor Marnie is opposing the principle of publishing global totals. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, I'm deeply concerned with the wording there, because we're sort of on the one hand saying this is a matter for town and community councils, or other bodies, I should say, because there was a typo there. But then To then say the council supports the principle of publishing global totals, to me, that seemed as though we support global totals everywhere and we would publish global totals ourselves if we were allowed to do so. And I don't think that sends a particularly good message. So I think that at the very least, the wording needs to be made more precise on that, because I don't think globalizing these figures is appropriate. And I don't think we should give the impression that that's a position that we support.
I think just for clarification, George, I think we in any case we delete "was." This is a matter for town and community councils, because that's not to whom this question refers. So, Councillor Prothero.
I actually think we do have to take up a view on this, because we are talking about us. And I personally feel that from the position of transparency, our expenses, whatever they might be, should be published. I am quite uncomfortable with that. I don't have a view what community councils and town councils do, and I'm happy that we've said what we have for that. But if it's to do with us, I think I would like to have them continually to be published.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
me.
I've got 3 people who've indicated fairly in the same vein. Councillor Haynes.
Well, I agree with the previous 3 speakers. It should be no on the question, with a comment saying that certainly the principal council's expenses should be shown individually. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Goodjohn.
Just to note quickly that in 21-22 no expenses were claimed, and in 22-23 £1,000 of expenses were claimed under the recently adopted audited statement of accounts passed through governance and audit. So I don't think it really matters that much, but yeah, I'm in support of the other speakers' proposals about keeping it published. That's fine by me, but really it's not a matter that is of much concern at the moment. But yeah, I would keep that to principal councils, as I think we can only comment for ourselves. So yeah, just that principal councils members should be published individually.
Okay. I think I've had 5 speakers all indicate the same way, which is to answer no, and to let's say that principal authorities should publish travel and subsistence expenses of members. Before I start a second round of conversation, I'm both aware that there is a 6 o'clock briefing that many people want to attend, and we have another item to get through. So, Councillor Perks, did you want to add?
Could I just clarify the actual, if members are claiming sort of caring or family leave and different circumstances like that, is that part of this? Because I think that's
I don't think it's part of this.
I find that a little bit more difficult, but
I don't think it's part of this. Jeff will confirm.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and I'm really sorry for creating the confusion with my draft response. It is clearly a typographical error, Chair, and it should be referring not to town and community councils, and it was a cut and paste, so forgive me for that, everybody. Just to reassure Councillor Perks, this is only referring to those matters within the question, which is travel and subsistence payments made to members to those designated bodies. So apologies for any confusion. Back to you, Chair.
That's okay. Thanks, Jeff. And so based on the responses so far, then a no, and that, as we said, that travel and subsistence expenses of members of principal council should continue to be published individually. Yeah. So that takes us to the end of those mammoth consultation responses by committee. So our recommendations, therefore, are: the committee notes the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales's IRPW Draft Annual Report 24-25 proposals, that the committee approves the responses to the determinations as amended by us this evening, and the committee considers and agrees the draft responses to the consultation questions set out and as amended by us this evening in Appendix B. Is that fine, Jeff? Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
So if we could have somebody to move those recommendations. Councillor Goodjohn, and seconded. Councillor Haynes. Councillor Perks, great. Thank you very much. So that's that item completed. We now move on to item 5, as was item 6 now, which is the last one of today, and this is research support for councillors. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, members, this is the last report in front of you for this evening, relates to research support for members. As indicated in the report, the Welsh Government issued new consolidated statutory and non-statutory guidance intended to support councils to meet their obligations in July 2023 relating to the Local Government Act 2000, the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021. Part 2 of this guidance refers to research support for councillors under Section 8(1)(a) of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011. The guidance states that all elected members should be able to access a range of information in order to undertake their roles effectively. The guidance recommends that council undertakes an internal review, audit of the existing research support provided to councillors and evaluates the examples given within the guidance. These examples are set out in paragraph 2.3 of the report, Chair. I won't go into each of those ones, Chairman. They're fairly self-evident. So the committee is requested to consider the current level of support, which is, I suppose, the baseline available to elected members as set out in Appendix A to the report provided by the Council, and considers if this is sufficient in supporting members to undertake their roles on behalf of the Council. And bear in mind, in the Council's constitution, there are a number of role descriptions for members, cabinet members, chairs of various committees and group leaders. So depending on the committee's comments and if they feel that additional support is required above that already referred to in the Appendix A, and the committee's approval is being sought to undertake a survey of elected members to identify what additional support is required and how this support could be developed over time. Bear in mind, the guidance is always saying that the support can be, or additional support can be developed based on resources over time. The draft survey is attached to Appendix B, Chair, and that would be obviously subject to the comments of members. That would be up again for the committee to approve if they wish to go for the survey. The recommendations as set out in the report 1 is that the committee consider the level of support available to members currently as set out in Appendix A to the report, and whether this is sufficient in supporting members to undertake their roles on behalf of the Council. And subject to the above, the draft member research support survey attached to Appendix B to the report be considered, and subject to the committee's comments, approve the circulation of the survey to all elected members to identify what additional support is required and how this support can be developed over time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So fundamentally, we have a description of the situation at present, the baseline situation, which is Appendix A, and then we have a set of survey questions for councillors, which will then help support Democratic Services to develop their offer. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. To start off with, I'd say I don't believe that the research support provided at present is sufficient. I think the reason for this is quite straightforward, and that's that for democratic scrutiny and accountability to function effectively, you need the separation of powers, and that isn't the fault of this authority. But there isn't much separation of powers in local government vis-a-vis either the Senedd or indeed the UK Parliament. So whereas you have a clear separation between the executive and the legislature in the other two institutions that I've named, you don't have that in the same way in this authority. And what that means is when backbench or opposition members seek advice or support from officers, those are the same officers who are there to serve and assist the executive in carrying out its roles. Now, I think that actually puts officers in a difficult position at times because they are somewhat compromised in that they're there to help the executive carry out its role in running the authority. And then at the same time, they're supposed to be providing advice to opposition members on how they can stop them or obstruct them or hold them up, because that's how we know that at times democracy works. So I would suggest one thing that we do need is independent support and advice from either an officer or somebody appointed by the council but operating outside of the council to provide procedural advice, research support, etc., who isn't also then serving the executive. And that way we might have better scrutiny from backbench and opposition members.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. That's an interesting proposal and concept based on the serving two masters, and I think that's interesting to consider that within the survey that's going to be sent out. Councillor Goodjohn.
Yeah, quickly, can I also comment? That's a very interesting and good point made by Councillor Carroll, and I don't know if we can really consider it right now because of the circumstances of funding that we have available, but I definitely think it's something that should be explored, and hopefully Jeff can have some comments on that. But no, that's a very interesting proposal. I was looking at the 2.3 about the statutory guidance, and I would definitely say that 5 out of the 6 points are definitely already provided by Democratic Services. The support is extremely good. I just think it's when asking for specific research or specific access towards research, the procedures required for deciding whether that is a fruitful thing to take up, something that should be considered. I haven't seen the procedures and the processes behind how that decision is made, other than on a case-by-case basis. So if they do exist, please point them to me, but I haven't found them in my time so far as a councillor. Therefore, I wonder if we do have those procedures in place, because I do find, particularly around subjects such as the budget, where modelling has taken place somewhat behind the scenes, although the results of that modelling is often shared with all of us, whether in briefings or in full meetings. I would definitely be interested in what is considered as a proposal which is worth the time of the authority to look at, even if it is opposition or backbench driven, and therefore possibly unlikely to get through the budget process, and when it is considered a waste of time, because what we definitely cannot do is have a huge number of different officers running around doing the same thing, modelling exactly the same thing, and I do think there needs to be some more transparency as to how that decision is made, and that decision can be made, and that councillors can request that, because of course I have often, and we can regularly request for information that officers already have. It's when deciding to make a research as to a new proposal would that be considered. So I'd just be interested if there are already procedures in place for that, and what would be considered. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. I am conscious of time, and I think it's a very complex question there for Jeff. So maybe a written answer might be more appropriate to the committee, Jeff.
Yes, Chair, I could certainly come back to Councillor Goodjohn in writing.
Yeah, but you could copy in the committee, because we want to hear the answer to that.
Yeah.
Councillor Marnie.
Yes, help with research and information. We could start with getting some phone calls answered when we actually ring anybody up or send emails. I know that Ian Johnson's well aware of my concerns, expressed concerns with this over some time. And here I am yet again, having rung a phone number with no answer phone of any description left on Friday, and then sending an email, still now having to resort to using the Chief Executive's personal assistants to track anybody down, which isn't fair on her. Phone calls with no answers, no answer phones on. I have no idea whether the person I'm contacting is on 2 weeks holiday, if they're off sick or whatever. That would be a start, to be honest with you. I'm not like you, Jeff. It's just an absolute outrage. virtually every week I'm sending a list of unanswered phone calls with no answer phones or anything like that to the chief executive's office, asking them to track people down. We've no idea if they're in work, not in work, whether they've picked up whatever, wrong phone numbers, the old screaming down the phone, no such phone number stuff. So that would be a start, and quite frankly, that would be 100 or 1,000% improvement if we could get some progress on that. The progress I was promised and has never really happened. Cheers.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair, and I will be brief, time being said. On Councillor Carroll's point, just a further note on that, I agree with it totally. And sorry, my alarm went off. Just a point that officers put in recommendations with their documents they produce for us to review, particularly in scrutiny, and therefore it is very hard to get independent advice because the officer has taken a view if they've put a recommendation in, and it would be useful to have independent and advice on things so we can fight them clearly. Also, I'm very much against surveys. Please, no more surveys. If you want to know what I think, please just ask me. I'll tell you. I tell people often, just write down what I've said, and you don't need to send a survey out. They're blunt instruments, so please no more surveys. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Your comments have been noted, Councillor Haynes, on both aspects. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose that I have the experience that I have of dealing with officers is that, having chaired 2 scrutiny committees and a task and finish group and sat on another task and finish group, I find that the officers' work that they've supplied is, sort of really excellent. And I suppose what also, if you're asking questions of officers, what you do have to think about is each directorate's annual delivery plan, that they're going to give you the advice that's within there and what they want to deliver. But also, I would say that most officers are going to give you an impartial view in that, with the plan that they have, they're going to tell you what's contained within that plan. But I think they can also give an impartial view, sort of democratic officers can give an impartial view, as same as a civil servant would, really.
Thank you, Councillor Perks. Councillor Prothero.
Thank you. I just feel, on the back of what Councillor Marnie says, to just also put across another experience. Since I started as a councillor last year, I honestly haven't really had the same experience as he has. I don't have issues with the list that we've been given when I need to contact an officer. I haven't not been able to get hold of people. So I just feel for, just for fairness and balance, that's my experience of this. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow Councillor Marnie to come back in, although, we have heard your experience of this already, Councillor Marnie.
Well, I'm delighted that somebody's had different experience. And are we doing an investigation into different standards of dealing with different councils?
Oh, so we're having a problem with your sound there, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm delighted that somebody's had a much better experience than my own. As you know, mine's been going on for about 2 years, and I've detailed in fine detail. You were actually in on the meeting, as you know, for 2 hours being the chief executive. Is this a suggestion there should be some inquiry into different standards for different councillors, perhaps?
I don't know whether there's different standards for different councillors. Certainly, I don't think this is quite the area of this this committee item, which is about the offer that's available to people and whether that can be improved. I think your ongoing concerns and issues, so maybe something we can discuss again with the chief executive. In my personal experience is that I contact most officers by email and get a response within, I think, a proportionate time. But I'm aware that some people are concerned about the length of time it does take to get responses to some things. But that may well be something that we want to look at, sort of at a different point in time from this item here. So this item, just a reminder, has a description of the offer of support that's provided currently to members. And then, much to Councillor Haynes's chagrin, we have a survey based around people's support needs. Or we've already discussed in previous meetings that, of course, only those who respond to the surveys will have their needs met. So I'll third my question is, does anyone have any comments on around the questions in the survey, or any comments they'd like to make on that, or are we happy with that survey being distributed and analysed hopefully in time for our meeting in April, which will allow us to consider, in particular, I think some of the interesting options that were put forward by Councillor Carroll earlier. Councillor Carroll, like myself, has experience of working in the Senedd, where there is an independent members research service, which stands apart from the normal secretariat. And so that provides a different experience, and it's also possible that you have a different experience, and it's maybe what Councillor Marnie was alluding to, a different experience between whether you're a member of the executive group or whether you're in opposition, and how you wish to approach these things.
I didn't quite say that. I didn't quite say that, I didn't quite say that. But I
apologize for putting words in your mouth.
I'm delighted other people have a more positive experience than myself. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but you know, there is a a possible distinction in how what we're looking for based on whether we are on the side of the executive or in opposition. So, but that's up to people to make comments or suggestions in response to the questions that we have here in the survey. Are there any further comments or specific comments relating to that survey, or are we happy to go with the recommendations, which are can we change that, Jeff, to noting the current level of support as set out in Appendix A? Because we don't know if it's sufficient until we've had the responses to the questionnaire. Does that make sense,
yes,
Jeff?
Chair. Yes,
yeah.
Of course, Chairman.
So
yeah.
the committee notes the current level of support available to members as set out in Appendix A of the report. And then 2, that the draft members research support survey attached to Appendix B be considered and approved for circulation to all elected members to identify what additional support is required and how this support can be developed over time. Are people happy with those as recommendations? I'm having some nods there. Can I have somebody to move that formally? Councillor Prothero and Councillor Goodjohn, thank you very much. So I don't know if Councillor Haynes wants to say anything, or if it's just come back on camera for another purpose. No? Okay. In that case, can I thank you all. I have no further additional items under Part 1 or under Part 2. Could I thank you for your attendance this afternoon, this evening, and wish you all well. Councillor Haynes? You're on mute. You're on mute, Stephen.
Me and that mute button today. Sorry, Chair. I was going to ask if we could put something on our future work programme if we have one. It's never mentioned. So
we don't have an item on future work programmes, but if you want to suggest something just before I bring the meeting to an end, then
yes, if you may, Chair. We seem to be having lots of special council meetings, so I wonder whether it'd be worthwhile us looking into the frequency of council meetings.
That's as was discussed in the meeting the other day. Some of these things are outside of our terms of reference. There will be a timetable for the next municipal year that will come to cabinet in probably February to March time, and I'm sure that your concerns on that will have been heard by the Democratic Services Officer with regards to some of the timetabling of when those things take place, because obviously we now know we need to have the housing revenue accounts discussed 2 months in advance, so that should be timetabled for January, and we should know roughly when our accounts needs to be reported. But I'm sure that Jeff and the team will be looking into that so that we can have those scheduled rather than have extraordinary meetings bounced upon us. Is that fair, Councillor Haynes? Jeff?
It's a fair comment, but I suspect we do need to increase it. But if it's outside our remit, it's outside our remit.
Something for Democratic Services to take into consideration, I believe. Jeff?
Thank you, Chair.
Only to say we do our best to plan our meetings. The issue of statement accounts was obviously delayed because of Audit Wales issues with resources, and that just has a knock-on effect. And again, I suppose without putting words in colleagues' mouth in finance, I think they're up against it in terms of meeting various deadlines, and that always means the potential for special meetings of the council. There's no right or wrong answer to this, Councillor Haynes. It's just, I suppose, it's just other organisations' workloads impacting on the authorities, which means on occasions we do need special meetings. I know, Chair, that you're alluding to times in the year when we have these issues arising. It's become obviously in the last 2 years probably more prominent, Chair. Some of the issues which why we've had to have special meetings, deadlines and so on. And I think other things relating to, for example, the self-assessment report that was considered a week ago today. Again, that's I think that's capacity issues within that team to get all the various bits and pieces together, the levers pulled and so on, and line everything up to get it in front of a meeting of the authority. So again, it's meeting deadlines set by other bodies, and sometimes that doesn't sit neatly within the calendar of meetings.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Councillor Haynes. Thank you, Jeff. I'm sure that we take into consideration in developing the new timetable for the next municipal year. Can I don't know if I've already done this, but I formally bring the meeting to a conclusion. Thank you all for your attendance tonight, and wish those of you about to head to a budget briefing the best of luck.
Good night.
Thank you.